Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, and we are streaming every day stories about the new economy and how people are competing, succeeding in this economy. My name is Jeffrey Davis. I'm the host of Radio Entrepreneurs, also CEO and chairman of MAGE LLC, management consulting firm. Our next guest, as a result of Mark Z from Mark Z Legal Staffing, is Dan McCormack, founder and CEO of Dan McCormack and Associates. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Jeff.
Well, you got the big sign behind you, so tell us what you do.
Dan McCormack and Associates. We're consultants to the legal, financial, and service industries. We provide strategic, managerial, operational consultants to law firms, banks, other types of service industries. Typically, people will call us in when they're experiencing some form of change. We also provide executive and leadership coaching. Sometimes we're reached out to directly by individuals looking to advance their careers. We're often hired by companies who put new managers or executives in place, and they need some coaching to help develop them, probably dealing with some type of obstacle, need to get beyond that, and they bring us in.
So tell us about your background, how you evolved into this position.
I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, though I took the long route. I started out in banking. I spent about 18 years in banking, both on the, I call it the retail side as well as the corporate side. I spent a good 12 years on the corporate lending. The last 5 years was in the 90s, dealing with corporate restructuring, a lot of workouts, helping businesses get back on their feet. And after that, I spent 3 years as a CFO of a small community health center in Boston, helping turn that around. And after that, I thought I needed a rest, so I went to work for a law firm. Little did I know that would be a lot more challenging than my prior career. And I was able to work for one of the global law firms in Boston for a good 22 years. I ran their Boston office, oversight of everything, operations, finance, hiring, you name it. And during that course, I made sure I always sought out certifications from a financial perspective, human resource and development, real estate. If you went to my website, you would see a whole slew of certificates because I think it's important to validate your experiences, and I've always done that. So a couple of years ago, I set my sights on starting my own business, and end of 2018, I retired, and I launched my business beginning of last year. And it was going quite well up to the pandemic, I would say. But things are good.
You said it's going well through the pandemic. So
it was going quite well until the pandemic, and now it's slowly getting back up and going.
So what happened when the pandemic started, as far as your type of clientele?
I think most of them really were impacted by the shutdown. A lot of them did close down, stopped operations. At the best case scenario, they had limited staffing. Really, I mean, when I say limited, 125 people, organizations down to a few people on site at best. And I think the challenge they've all had is the prior challenge was, just like the hospitals experienced, months ago, was trying to find the protective gear they'll need to reopen. And, they were focusing on that over the last 3 to 4 weeks. They had their plans in place, but how do we reopen? Fortunately, I think today, a lot of them are reopening this very moment.
So are we talking mostly law firms right now?
Yeah, law firms and other service organizations, yeah.
Right. Interesting. So has the product offering changed during this time for you too?
I think I'll say this, the most important thing I'm seeing today is communication. People really need to focus on their communications, and that's both on the organizational level as well as the individual level. Organization-wise, we have our strategy. We know what we want to do. It could be the same as it was a year ago. In terms of getting there, though, it's our culture that gets us there. It's the how of the organization. And I think the cultures are what people aren't realizing, because it's no longer the same old way. We've always done it that way. May not work because we've been shut down. Not only have we been shut down, coming back to work, we have restrictions. So our communications, we might, if we really have to be clear on our needs and our outcomes, as the larger the organization, the more critical that is, because things will be different in many slight ways. And so I think communications is critical. talk about the individual, same situation. Individuals are coming back to work today. It's almost like returning from grief. We've been just shut down. People have lost their jobs. They've lost their freedom. Some people have lost loved ones, and really dealing with grief. And so as a manager, you really have to be communicating and listening, and really have to avoid that judgment and the blame game today. You know, as you open your doors, you really have to focus on your employees' needs and listen to them, and acknowledge when you can't help them, because it'll be challenging. I'm an optimist, though. I believe in the human spirit. I think things are going to go very, very well. And the reality of it is, when you think about change management, you can look at it in 4 levels. You have the first level is kind of a catabolic stage. Everyone's negative. No one wants change. Second level is resistance. They fight it. They put up their obstacles. We've passed those 2 levels. They're back. They happen when everyone is home. Right now, we're at the reconciliation. We're ready for change. We want to get back to work. We want to make it happen. And so I think that things will go well. You've heard on the news, people are optimistic about the economy turning around. Well, I think that businesses will get back on their feet faster than people realize, because they're ready for that change. If people keep an open mind and communicate, really state what they need, they'll do well. And then pretty soon they'll get to that 4th level where things will go very, very well.
Right. So how do you like to engage with clients?
Well, interesting is that I was doing it by Zoom before this started. You know, it was just as I'm not an expert on it, but this will certainly help the last couple of months. And from a coaching perspective, so if you're coaching someone, it's one-on-one. So the initial always is initial meeting, potentially face-to-face. But after that, a Zoom meeting, a telephone call. In terms of businesses, it can work the same way. I'll go on site for a few days a week. You know, making sure, check in on the benchmarks, make sure everything's working out well. And then most of it's remote.
That's good. We've been speaking with Dan McCormack, founder and CEO of Dan McCormack and Associates, LLC, mostly focused on coaching and consulting to the legal industry. Dan, if someone were looking to connect with you, how would they do that?
I think the best way of doing it is right through my website at danjmccormack.com, and my contact information is there.
Great. I want to thank you for being on the show today, and continued success, and remind everybody this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more stories.